In the second lecture on organizational culture, I will discuss how leaders can influence culture. Culture cannot be changed quickly. It can be changed, though, but it requires gentle pressure, which is relentlessly applied. If a leader wants to influence culture, the leader must first make use of what are called embedding mechanisms. These are mechanisms which help embed underlying assumptions and values in the organization, which can then be discerned as artifacts by their behaviors or things that we see in the organization. We as leaders pay attention to certain things, and our subordinates and other members of the organization watch what we do and watch what we pay attention to. We influence people by measuring things. If we want a certain report of a certain activity from a subordinate, we're communicating to the subordinate that we have that somehow that we value whatever that activity is for which they're making a report. And the parts of the organization that we attempt to exert more control over are those parts of the organization that people view us as valuing more than perhaps others. So we can embed those underlying assumptions by what we pay attention to, what we measure, or what pieces of the organization we more closely control. Leaders react to critical incidents. Reactions can be help embed the values that we want to see enacted in the organization, or they can help embed the actions that we at least don't espouse. Outcomes are the result of behaviors in the field, especially in policing, and if we react simply to the outcome, be it good or bad, then people are going to view us from the perspective of valuing simply outcomes. We all probably recognize that we can perform, do the right things for the right reasons, perform well under stress, and there could still be bad outcomes because we don't control all of a situation. So if we react simply to the outcome rather than the process by which that outcome is achieved or happens, then that embeds certain values in the organization. We as leaders are role models. People watch what we do, and it's called modeling for a reason. We should model what we want to see emulated, and we play a role in teaching and coaching others in the organization. So what we teach, what we help people learn, what we coach them to achieve, communicates what we value in the organization. We provide rewards. We make promotions, and we confer status in the organization. People pay attention to what it is, and we've discussed that in Motivation Through Consequences, where we can leverage observational learning. Because if we reward, then people view that as something, or at least that behavior, as something we value, and that we hope that they will learn to emulate that behavior. Likewise, promotion can be viewed as a form of reward, and people want to know what it takes to get ahead in an organization. To the extent that leaders leverage that and make it clear what the criteria for promotion are, then they will see more of that behavior. If it's a mystery, if it's referred to as the X factor, and people can't discern exactly what it is, then a leader forfeits the ability to influence behavior. And we've studied status in Area 2 when we looked at the role of status in groups, and we know that people pay attention to status, and that status works for us if status is conferred for reasons that help support the organization's mission, and for reasons that people view as fair and equitable. Finally, we greatly influence the organization by how we recruit, select, and retain people. The criteria we establish for recruiting, who we want to attract, and who we select and allow in the organization, how we train them, and the level of performance we expect in order to retain them, all of those behaviors send very clear messages about what it is we value and help embed those things deeply in the organization. Beyond embedding mechanisms, leaders can engage in reinforcing mechanisms. And again, these simply reinforce. You can't focus just on the reinforcing mechanisms. You must, as a leader, focus on embedding mechanisms. And then you can use these reinforcing mechanisms to help maintain or more deeply embed those values and underlying assumptions that you hope to communicate through the embedding mechanisms. We design an organization such that certain lines of communication, lines of authority, how the organization is structured functionally, geographically, all of those things help us reinforce the way we want the organization to operate, and hopefully to help the organization accomplish its mission. We must design systems and procedures that support what we want to achieve. This is particularly important in terms of recruitment, selection, and retention. You must have very good systems that span boundaries, because typically, at least in medium to larger size organizations, all of those activities occur across both functional, geographic, and temporal lines in the organization. We've talked about before the design of physical space, offices, buildings. Again, those are artifacts, and we communicate things with those. Do we build office spaces that contribute to open communication, to more greater cohesion in work groups, or do we tend to make a lot of little gopher holes for everyone to hide in and send emails from one gopher hole to the gopher hole next to yours? So all of those things help influence and reinforce those deeper things that we want to embed. We know that stories, legends, myths, and parables about key people and events help reinforce the organization. There's an entire stream of organizational culture research that looks at the roles of stories and parables in organizations and attempts to discern those things that they communicate, and that's exactly what they do. They communicate. War stories are more than just simply entertainment among the more experienced members. They're ways that perhaps not purposefully, but they are certainly ways in which values or underlying assumptions are communicated. And then finally, formal statements about organizational philosophy. Our creeds, charters, vision, value statement, mission statement, things of those nature are all formal statements. And it's critical that those espoused values, or the values that are contained in those statements, comport with actual practice in the organization.